Well, think about vacation getaways. That might make you feel a little better. That always helps me. 7:36. Are you planning a little vacation getaway this fall? Well, what's better? A hotel, an Airbnb, a Verbo. For those who don't know, Verbo is an acronym, vacation rental by owner. Well, Erik, the travel guy Hastings, his website is ericthetravelguy.com. That's Erik with a K. Joins us now to compare the three. Good morning to you, Mr. Reflector.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm so glad that we're of a certain age that we remember the reflector and how awful that was for our skin, but people did that.
Of course. Yeah. Can
God.
you imagine that's what we used to do? Yeah.
Let's get those ultraviolet rays burning our skin as fast as we can. So, Erik, I know obviously there's a difference. Sometimes everyone's like, "Oh, do Airbnb," but sometimes hotels are the better bet. So let's talk about hotels versus Airbnb, and there is a difference in terms of Airbnbs and Verbo, right? Isn't it what homeowners being around and stuff? So talk about the difference between and the pluses and minuses of an Airbnb hotel and Verbo, please.
Well, I love we're just digging right in today because I really believe that the lodging decision is one of the most important decisions you're going to make when you're planning
Hmm.
an upcoming vacation. And a lot of times, we don't really think about it in those terms, but if you really wanted to break it out, it's really number three in my opinion, which is number one, where are you going? Why are you going there? Where and why? That's your number one decision. Number two, how are you going to get there? Is this going to be a cruise? Is this going to be a road trip? Are you going to take a train? Are you going to take most likely an airplane to get there? But number three, when you get there, then what? I'm getting ready to
Hmm.
go to Turkey tomorrow, Ken, and I got to tell you, that is my number one concern. Who's picking me up at the airport? I know how I'm getting there. I know where I'm going. I know why I'm going. Where am I staying? And how am I going to get to that hotel? So I think the lodging decision is really important because then you have a decision as to whether or not that lodging decision is going to be part of your vacation or if it's going to be a little more utilitarian. And so that's one of those things to consider. And certainly your party size will have everything to do with your decision as to where you're going to rest your pretty little head at the end of the day.
Interesting. That makes a lot of sense because that's where you might want to spend a little more money and get a nice Airbnb or a Verbo. Because if you have a brood of six, now you could all have separate bedrooms, have your own private space. If you're going to be there for a week, you don't want to all be jammed in one little hotel room or and or pay. If you're going to pay for two separate hotel rooms, you might as well get an Airbnb or a Verbo. But now, which I always get confused. Do you recall? I think it's the Airbnb, if I'm correct, that allows a homeowner to meet you if it's in the description. They have to tell you. But like I did an Airbnb once in Florida where the homeowner, it was like a duplex situation, or like they had a mother-daughter house on the property, and the homeowner was in the mother-daughter house, and they had a pool, and I felt creeped out. I was like, they're probably, and there were cameras, and they tell you there are cameras. Who
Well,
knows what they're,
okay.
I mean, that was
Well,
creepy.
Okay, well, but here's the thing. And what I love about certainly Airbnb has done a wonderful job of sort of making the vacation rental cool. They made it trendy, they made it hip, and they did some really innovative things. Now, if the Airbnb people are watching, I feel bad even saying this out loud. That's not my personal preference. I don't prefer to stay in an Airbnb, and it has relatively nothing to do with the company itself. I actually think the company does a great job managing what I would consider herding cats. These homeowners that think they can make an extra buck, and they find out, of course, a lot of them it's a lot of work, and you're dealing with the public, and we can be rather finicky. So again, I have nothing against the company itself. For me, when I travel, I like to have a lot of. I like to mitigate as many risk factors as I can because travel is stressful enough, which is why I stay at a hotel. I like usually the central location of a hotel. Remember, the first hotel that we at least documented was up in Rhinebeck, New York, up in 66 or something.
Hmm.
Like hotels have been around a long, long time. Amenities and services, like you mentioned. I like the safety and security of a hotel. So again, there's lots of pros and cons in both directions, but it does matter specifically to you and what you're looking to do. Now, when we go down to Hilton Head, which we do almost annually, if not every other year, we always get a home away, a VRBO, because, like you said, we have 10 people going, and everybody wants their own bedroom and their own bathroom, etc.
And you're right. Your location is key too. We had sold our house in Hollywood, Florida, and we bought a condo in Fort Lauderdale, and it had to be gutted. So when we would fly back and forth, we couldn't stay or we didn't want to, in the middle of a construction zone, stay in that condo. So what we would do
Mhm.
is rent an Airbnb near the condo. But what was cool is, and I talked to Pam, our director, about this, all the years I had a house in Hollywood, Florida, I always wondered what it was like to live in Victoria Park or Coconut Grove or South Beach
Right.
so we rented Airbnbs in all those different locations to see how the other half lives. And we had like a pool on the ocean, you know, and we were like, this is a $2 million house. This is what it's like. Now, we couldn't afford to buy the place, but it was cool that because why go through life and die always wondering what it would be like to live there, when you drive by
Right.
that house on the beach or that awesome apartment in downtown with a view of the, whatever. We did all that, and you can do that with a
Right.
vrbo or an Airbnb, so that might be something you might want to experience. But if you don't want that added expense, you don't need it, and you just want the convenience of a beautiful hotel and all the amenities, then the hotel works.
Right. I mean, because again, just remember your problems are going to follow you on vacation, right? So it's really
Hmm.
important to decide, how is the lodging going to be part of your trip? If you're the type of person or type of people you're traveling with, you say, we want to get up, we want to make breakfast sandwiches in the morning before we go, we want to go to the market, we want to, great. You can't do that in a standard hotel. Usually not a
Right.
lot of kitchens in those hotel rooms. But if you're not that type of person, why pay for those amenities when you say, no, no, I want to go out because I heard the Eggs Benedict at Mel's Diner down the street is the best in the city and we want to go try that, blah, 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 whatever it is. Just make sure you think about that because, again, an Airbnb or a hotel room or a hotel itself can be part of the experience. And I think that's something that's really cool, especially when you're going to some of these bigger cities that have got hotels that are really historic. I love the history. So I love going to hotels and seeing, oh my gosh, this is where this happened at this hotel.
It is cool. We did that in Rome, by the way, and I know it sounds a little macabre, but where um of course now I'm on the spot when I'm tired I forget names. The guy for the
Oh,
star of The Sopranos, the hotel,
yes,
The
James
Boscolo
Gandolfini.
Hotel. Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You think I'm the one in New Jersey. You think, well, you used to be up here, you know. James Gandolfini died in the Boscolo Hotel in Rome, and we stayed there not because of that. We happened to stay there, but when we realized this is the Boscolo. This is where he died, poor man. And we paid an homage. I
Right.
actually said a prayer outside of the room where he passed. So it wasn't like
Yeah.
we didn't do like a selfie. We wouldn't do that. That we draw the line there.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right.
Right.
There was a certain something like every housekeeper knows that's the room, and they take you to that room, and they often do not rent it out. They said it's a big hotel; they could
No,
afford not to. It's
again,
like a shrine; they
you're
don't
right.
rent it out.
Well, I mentioned Eggs Benedict. I mean, now I'm thinking about it. Of course, you could go to the Waldorf Astoria right there on Park
Right,
Avenue and have breakfast, and that's
where
where
it was
one of
invented.
the two claim to have invented it. That's right. And see, I like stuff like that. I love, even if
Yeah.
that's not what the trip's about, it's one of those conversation pieces, as you just mentioned with James Gandolfini.
Right. And by the way, one of my neighbors in my last town where I lived, what they did was they rented an Airbnb and went online and found a private chef. And the private chef would come into the Airbnb each day. It had a chef's kitchen and would prepare. He had his extended family and friends, or like three couples. And the private chef prepared lunch and dinner for all of the guests in this giant chef's kitchen every day in front of them because they're foodies. And that for them was a great vacation. They said if we never go
And
to the
that's a
beach,
great,
we're fine with that.
and again, this is one of those things where you have the private chef there. Airbnb and VRBO, they have cleaning protocols. But again,
Mhm.
and they've done a great job with it. But again, I prefer the standardized cleaning protocols of a flagged hotel, such as a Marriott or a Hilton or an IHG, because that's one of the things that matters to me. I don't know why, but it does.
You have every right to. I'm with you. Erik the Travel Guy Hastings. It's ericthetravelguy.com. Erik with a K. He's also the star of the PBS and YouTube travel video series Beyond Your Backyard. And if you're into murder mystery, he's the big old host and star of the awesome Orlando, Florida attraction, the Speakeasy Murder and Other Acts of Prohibition Dinner Theater. Check it out when you're down there. You can find it online. Erik, thank you so much for joining us this morning, as always.
Thank you, my friend. I'll see you on the way back from Turkey.
Enjoy your trip. Safe travels, buddy. Thank you. We want to see your posts. All right.
Mhm.
Thanks again, Eric.